Misha calling.
Thank you.
Come from that.
Thank you. I liked all of that. I liked that movie. It was like all these badass heroes. And then I come on stage with the nerdy angel with a trench coat.
Badass trench coat.
Look at that, there's even fake smoke? What the fuck? So fancy. You know, this reminds me on Supernatural. I'm sorry. On Supernatural, if you ever watch carefully, you'll notice that in the dark, there's always mist, like always some sort of fog rolling in. And it was this stuff, this like fake, you see this? Fake smoke. They were always pumping in the fake smoke out of the woods, and there were like 5 guys that worked on Supernatural whose whole job was to run around with these little, they looked like these little black like lanterns with puffs of smoke coming out, and they'd have to go like off in the woods and pop out smoke, and that was their job. And then we'd always have we'd always be the director. The main direction that was yelled by directors on the set of Supernatural, oh my God, look at this, was more smoke or too much smoke. It was one of those two. So it brings me back. And also, okay, I'm going to use up the whole time just talking about this. Did you know that this is aerosolized oil? And so you're breathing in, like, basically you're constantly vaping when you're in this. So all of the Supernatural cast are going to have emphysema soon. It's a good joke about emphysema. Okay.
Let's go for a baby session. Thank you for being here with us and welcome to Hero Comic Con Belgium.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here as well. I will be asking a few questions to Misha, but we'll soon open the floor for questions. There are volunteers with boxes that have mics in them. They will throw them at the people throwing their hands up, well, raising their hands. And please stay seated. When instructions will be given, everything will be very clear. But let me first ask, welcome to Brussels. What has caught your attention so far in your lovely little country?
Amodium, what is it called?
Atomium.
Atomium. I was like, Amodium, that's a drug you take for diarrhea. It's amazing. Your city, my impression of your city, I was walking around Brussels last night. Holy shit, there's a lot of smoke.
Yes,
I was walking around neighborhoods in Brussels last night, and it's I love it. It's like how a city should be. There's these little cafes and restaurants and bars that are right on street corners, right where people are living. On the west coast in the US, you have to get in a car and drive anytime you want to go anywhere.
Or did you not want to drive to Brussels?
No, you don't want to drive to Brussels. I also learned that this morning. They closed some roads. I guess there's some foreign dignitaries here or something. And it took us I ended up getting out of the car and walking at the end because it was like we were never going to get here. So
you're ready to get your Belgian passport then?
Yeah.
I also wonder, as an introduction question, you were here at this conference filled with fans, filled with love. Are you a fan of anyone, any show, any arts in particular?
Yeah, I'm a fan of various different artists and poets, and I was a fan of public radio, which a lot of you don't really know what it is, but in the United States, we had this thing called National Public Radio, and it was like news and arts and culture, but on the radio. And I loved it as a kid. You know, that shows how old I am, because we didn't have, the internet to fan on when I was a kid. We had just radio. But I've never been like a fan of an actor, or even so much a fan of a musician. I'm a fan of weird things. I'm a fan of some politicians in the United States, like Donald Trump. I really love him. He's gonna grab that clip and be like, Misha Collins endorsed me.
He just might.
Yeah, I do not, for the record.
Maybe let's go.
Are there a lot of Donald Trump fans here in Europe?
No.
I actually was at an event, where was I? I think I was in like Sweden or something, and I said something about Donald Trump. And there was one person in the audience who was like, I actually like Donald Trump. And I was like, what? How the fuck is that possible? Anyway, apparently half of Americans like Donald Trump, which is horrifying. Okay. I mean, you guys have your fascists over here too. It's not just us. I mean, you invented it over here in Europe. You know, we're just late to the party with our new fascists. This is good. I joked about diarrhea, emphysema, and fascism so far. It's a good start.
But do you find it easy to talk about? Because it feels like there's no filter. Right? Talking to you, and I find it very comfortable. It's not that common with public figures. That step of being outspoken, where does it come from?
You know, I go to a lot of fan conventions in the United States, and I have to change the way I talk about it on stage a little bit, because I have to be aware that there are a significant portion of the people in the audience who like Donald Trump and vote for Donald Trump. But I also feel like it's everybody's responsibility to be vocal about the things that are important in the world, regardless of whether you have 10 followers on Instagram or whether you have 10 million followers on Instagram. It's your sort of civic responsibility to talk about the things that are important. And so I've never even questioned whether I should be talking about those things publicly or not. It's always felt like, obviously, I have friends who are actors who have large followings who don't talk about politics publicly. And I'm like, why? What's the point of having a large following if you're not trying to manipulate people? You know?
Well, thank you for that. We're going to throw the mic ball into the audience now, so you can start raising your hand. I still have one question, just for the time for the volunteers to find the first victim for a question. So raise your hands, and the volunteers will throw it. But before that, Misha, I wonder, you entered this show Supernatural not in the first season. You arrived late on, not knowing that it would be 15 seasons long. When did it hit you that you were actually part of the heroes and not a supporting cast anymore?
It took me a while to figure out that I was like, you know, when I first got on Supernatural, I used to wonder when they were going to kill me off, because they kill people on Supernatural all the time. And I would always be a little bit nervous. I'd get each new script and be like, I hope I survive this episode. And when I kept surviving, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna stick around for a while. And then in the hiatus, which is the break between seasons, between season 6 and season 7, I went into the writer's office to say hi to them, and they said, just so you know, we're gonna kill you, and you're not coming back. And I was like, what? And they killed me. And I was not coming back. And then the fans were like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't kill him. And so the president of the network came back to the writers and producers and said, you're not really killing that character, right? And they were like, oh, no, we're gonna bring it back. So when they brought me back at the end of season 7, I started to feel like now they might be stuck with me.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for that. Where will our first question be coming from? Be very not loud, but over there. Oh, no. So, volunteers, please help me out. There. Okay, so we have a question right in front of us. Please
that's a ridiculous microphone that you have.
Don't hesitate and stand up and talk to us as loudly as you can.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is,
A bit closer, maybe.
you said on several occasions you didn't thought Supernatural would go through with the Castile declaration of love. Now that a few years have passed, what do you think?
Actually, sorry, I turned. Okay, well, there you go. Special attention. Thank you.
Your microphone isn't working very well.
You said on several occasions that you didn't think Supernatural would go through with Castile declaration of love, but now that a few years have passed, how do you think it should be approached or addressed in the revival eventually?
The question is, I didn't think that they were gonna, I never thought that they were actually gonna let Castile make a declaration of love on Supernatural, and then they did, and the question is, how do I think it'll be addressed or should be addressed when Castile and Dean eventually come back in the reboot that's happening. This will be another news story. Misha announces Supernatural is returning and his support for Donald Trump. Just for the record, I think we would all love to do some sort of a reboot or a movie or something at some point, but there is no plan for that right now. So I'm sorry, that was mean of me, what I just did. But I think it would be tragic not to address it directly and have a conversation about it. And I would love to know what Dean says, because he kind of left me hanging. You know? There was a meme on the internet where like Castile says, "I love you," and Dean is like, it's supposed to be sunny and warm in Cleveland this weekend. And it just doesn't, and somebody just showed me that meme like a few weeks ago. I'd never seen it before, and I was like, oh yeah, that's actually really funny. So maybe we should reenact the meme somehow. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Given the difficulty to hear the questions in the box, I will ask you to line up behind the two mics. So if you have a question, first come, first serve. There are two mics, and Misha, if you want to join us on stage. If you want to go back, that's up to you, but we'll be listening with a better hearing.
Oh, there's a Castile.
Yes, let's start with our left. Please ask your question.
Hi Misha, my name is Lorraine.
Hi,
First
Lorraine.
of all, thank you so much for coming to Belgium, finally.
Thank you for having me.
Always. So my question is, we all know in Supernatural that you guys had a fanfiction episode with some musical songs. And seeing how we know that some of the cast members are also very musical, was there ever talk of doing an actually musical episode with the characters? And if so, what would have been Castile's theme song?
I think Castile would have sung "Why Are There So Many Songs About Rainbows?" and I think there was talk of a musical episode, and we should have done it. I don't know why we didn't. They did a lot of other really stupid things on the show, so we should have done a musical. Maybe when we revive the series, we can make sure that happens. I was also, when we did the episode that had Supernatural high school musical in it, I was really bummed that I wasn't in that episode. They were like, but Castile is in it, Misha, and I was like, fuck you. Thank you.
So just for the record, I would say that Castile's theme song is part of your world from The Little Mermaid.
It's what?
Part of your world from The Little Mermaid.
Part of the world.
Part of the world.
From the Little
Because
Mermaid.
Castile wants to be.
I'm sorry, I'm not up on Little Mermaid songs, so I'll have to look it up, but I'll look it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your question, please.
Hi.
Hi Misha, I'm Sarah. Nice to
Sarah.
meet you. I have somewhat of a personal question, not related to Supernatural.
Okay, great.
I was wondering, what do you like most about living in the USA? And if you had to move to a country anywhere in the world, where would you like to move to?
I would love to go somewhere far, far away from Donald Trump. What do I like most about being in the US? It's a beautiful country, and it is actually a very diverse country. We have, you know, it's ironic right now because there's all this rhetoric in the United States that's very anti-immigrant, but 98% of the population in the United States is either immigrants or descendants of immigrants. The whole country is made up of immigrants. And what that means is there's all these different pockets of subcultures within the country, and they have all influenced one another, and that can be actually quite wonderful. There's this like big homogenizing, do you know that word? It's
I do.
Okay, it's like there's this force that's kind of blending all of the subcultures in the United States, which is chain stores, like McDonald's and Burger King and Walmart and all of these other things, and that's kind of like a thing I don't like about the United States, and something that makes me sometimes want to move. There are a lot of things about the country that are great, and there are a lot of things about the country that are easy to want to fix. You know, it's amazing that we have this. I think a lot of the world thinks of the United States as this very progressive, creative place. It generates a lot of the film and television that we watch around the world. It's been the incubator for some of the most advanced technology that has transformed the world more than anything. And yet we have this very traditional, conservative, Christian contingency in the country that is kind of trying to like take us backward in a lot of ways, and that can also make me want to move. And if I moved, I would want to move, of course, to Brussels.
Your real answer, please, not.
That's just teasing me.
This actually, I'm walking around, I'm not kidding, I was like, oh, this is how cities are meant to be. We live in a really beautiful place. I think I would like to be somewhere in the country if I were to go elsewhere in the world. I really enjoy, you know, parts of like the Mediterranean, Italy and Greece, and I haven't spent a lot of time in Africa or the Middle East, so I can't speak to that. But yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Italy sounds nice.
Yeah.
And it's closer to us, so go for it. How about you?
I want to ask a bit more personal question.
Okay.
I've switched schools recently, and my last school was kind of my home for 7 years. And since you've been on Supernatural for such a long time, it must have felt like home as well. So I wanted to ask if you have any advice to kind of get used to the new place and process it.
I switched schools a lot when I was a kid. We moved 15 times by the time I was 15 years old, so I was always in a different place, and I was always the new kid, and actually that was quite hard for me growing up. But it did teach me a little bit of resilience and how to like take the good out of being in a new situation. And now I quite love that. I like the adventure of being in a new place and meeting new people, and the opportunity that provides to just kind of be open to new things. If you're in the same place doing the same thing all the time, you can kind of close off to new ideas and fall into a routine. There was a study of people and their perception of time. You know how when we get older, I'm sure we all have noticed this, it seems like time speeds up. You notice that? Like when you were a kid, time really passed slowly, but now it's like, oh my God, that was another year? Shit. But if you do new things all the time, time appears to slow down to you because your brain is collecting all of the new experiences and it makes it seem like time is slowing down, which functionally means you live longer. Routines, if you have a life that's full of routine, one day blends into the next and your mind compresses the timeline. So one advantage of your new experience is that you're going to live longer. And that's science. Hi.
Hello. My question is, the most part of Supernatural you played Castile, but you also played different characters like Lucifer and Ginny, Leviathan, and I was just wondering what your favorite character to play was.
I think I had the most, well, first of all, I have to say a favorite character was just Castile, because he's the best. But I actually had the most fun playing Lucifer Cass. Mark Pellegrino had played Lucifer already on Supernatural, and so he had sort of established how that character worked. And so on the day that I started filming Lucifer Cass, that morning I went over to Mark Pellegrino's apartment and I asked him, do you have any tips for me? And he said, well, one important thing is in every scene, I look at the other character that I'm talking to, and in my head I ask the question, do I want to kill them or do I want to fuck them? And I found that that was incredibly useful for how the character worked. But also, it's a question that I now ask myself in daily life. So if you come up in autographs and you notice I'm staring at you, I'm just running a little calculation in my head. What a creepy thing to say.
Thank you. Please.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Ben. So I have two questions in one. What's your favorite?
A bit closer to your mic, please.
So my first question is, what's your favorite TV show or thing to do when you have free time? And two, can I call you my friend in an essay?
Wait, what was the second?
If I'm writing an essay, can I call you my friend in it?
In the essay?
Yeah.
Tell me your name again.
Maribel.
Mariba?
Maribel.
Maribel. And where are you from?
Estonia.
Estonia. What are your hobbies? I mean, if we're going to be friends, I feel like we should know these things about each other. Drawing? Okay, so you're my friend Maribel from Estonia. You like drawing and dressing up in cosplay, and I think that we can say that now. Yeah. We should probably get some pictures of us like running around town together, just in case your teacher doesn't believe it, So let's organize that, okay? And your first question was, I already forgot it.
What's your favorite TV show?
Oh, my favorite TV show? Well, I'm watching a show called The Morning Show right now, which is like a really wonderful television. It's just such great acting and writing, I can't believe it. I've watched a few things with my kids, so I like those shows better. Arrested Development, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld, really sophisticated stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi.
My name is Belinda.
I'm Belinda.
Thank you, first of all, for being a huge, big trench coat. You helped me through a huge part of my life. Secondly, me and my bestie over there, we drove to Purgatory earlier this year, and we said that was the best convention you've ever been to. So, what do you think about this one?
This is the best I've ever done. Great. I mean, Purgatory was great, but they didn't have smoke like this. This is like maximum sum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi Misha, I'm Natasha. So now since I'm a student again at the university, and I know you studied before at the University of Chicago, and I just want to ask, like, is there any correlation with what you studied before at the university with your career now as an actor and activist?
I went to the University of Chicago, and they have this thing. It's a very academic university. It's like a lot of pressure. All of the social life at my university took place in the basement of the library. Like that's where people would go hang out. I didn't drink or do drugs in college. Totally missed out on that. But it was a very like liberal arts education, they call it, but a very broad. They had this thing called the core curriculum. So you had to take physics, you had to take calculus, you had to take history, you had to take literature, you had to do biology, you had to do all of these things in order to graduate, which actually was wonderful because I got like a very well-rounded education, I thought. They did not have art, and like there was really no acting program to speak of, and it was very much like a traditional kind of academic university. And I wish that I had gotten the opportunity to study art, because I probably would have been a pretty good actor if I had, and I missed out on that opportunity. But the thing that I feel I got most out of my education was I learned not a specific thing. Like, I couldn't fucking tell you the first thing about calculus. But I learned critical thinking skills. I learned how to assess where my information was coming from. I learned about sources, and I learned about processing information, and that has been so useful in my life. I think it also has informed how I act and you know how I've approached the roles that I've approached. But in terms of like my work as an activist, it's been really an invaluable tool, especially in this age of disinformation. I understand about how to collect information and what's real and what's not, and what I can trust and what I have to question, and that's something I think, like in the United States, I think that the Republicans have intentionally chipped away at our public education system so that people don't have critical thinking skills, so that they're easier to manipulate, so that they can get them to vote for them. And I think it's backfired on them. And now this crazy fascist has co-opted the party because people will believe anything. So I'm a big proponent of like developing those critical thinking skills. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Misha. I was in Purgatory too.
Oh, nice to see you.
Yeah. I have two questions for you today.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you like Greece and Italy and southern countries in Europe a lot. Would you ever consider doing conventions there? Because until now, you've been only doing them in Scotland, England, Germany.
That is not true. I think I've been to 12 conventions in Rome. I did a couple of conventions in Barcelona.
I was not aware of Barcelona.
Yeah. See? Get your facts straight. I'm fact checking you right now. And I've never done one in Greece. I was signed up to do one in Portugal, but the promoters just took the money and ran, and they never did a convention. And I would very much like to do one in Greece. So if you can arrange that, that would be lovely.
As a Greek person, I think I will be able
Thank you for making that happen. Yes.
And my second question is, you obviously have a text line, but it's only available in the US. Will you ever expand it to Europe or Asia or Africa or any other countries outside of the US?
No. I actually talked to that. So the texting that I do is like with this company that facilitates it, and they're like, yeah, you can text people internationally. We have that technology now, but it's like $2 a text. It's ridiculous. Like, I would be bankrupt immediately if I started using it. So unfortunately, there's not a mechanism for doing that yet, but I would like to. And there's ways you can hack into the system. You can like get a US number, and then like you could buy a cell phone and then like have it at somebody's house in Florida and forward the messages that way. Like, if you really care, that's what you would do.
Actually, I don't think if there's any police here, I don't want to admit anything, but I might have done something.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's
you.
move to, unfortunately, our last questions. Please make it loud and make it good.
Hi, Misha.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's quite a lovely sword.
My name is Candace, and my question for you is, since you're an actor, I wanted to ask, what was for you the most difficult scene in Supernatural to act to? Like, what was personally a very difficult scene for you?
Well, it was the emotionally, I would say it was my last scene. And then, well, shit, I don't know, maybe my first scene was the most difficult because they had they had what's called squibs, and those are like little bits of gunpowder wired to batteries that actually explode. So when Bobby and Dean were shooting at me, I had like explosive gunpowder going off, ripping through my shirt. And they had these lights exploding over my head. And right before we did the first take on that, they sprayed my head with water. And I was like, what are you doing? And they were like, oh, it's just, just so your hair doesn't catch on fire. And I was like, what? That's possible? What the hell is going on here? And so the director, right before we did the first take, this was like my first take on this new show where I didn't know anybody, so of course I'm a little nervous. He was like, I just want you to act like nothing phases you, like don't react. And I was like, okay, but what if my hair catches on fire? And so then I'm walking in, and there's these explosions going off, and your body, it sounds like a gunshot, it's that loud, right? And when your body hears that and feels it, you want to go like, ah! Right? So I was trying to be calm, and then the lights were exploding over my head, and there's these showers of sparks were coming down, and they landed on my head, and I could hear the sizzling. They were like, burning my scalp, actually. And so here I am like, oh! And that is how I established the character of Castile, and I then had to carry on for 12 years on the show. Yeah,
Thank you. Unfortunately, that's all for the questions.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Misha.
Come say hi with autographs, or come take a picture with me, or we'll go take some photos around town so to prove that we're friends. Or wherever she went. Right, there you are. Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you, Misha. Thank you for being here. You can go out to this door, or please remember that you need to go out and come back in for the next session. You can meet your heroes.